All right, let's just jump right in. When we think about retirement planning, we're usually on the lookout for those big, glaring mistakes, right? But what if the most expensive errors are the ones that actually feel smart? The ones that seem like just common sense? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. The top retirement mistakes that can cost you the most, and we've got the numbers to prove it.
So, what do you think is the single most dangerous retirement mistake you could possibly make? I'll give you a hint. It's not picking some terrible stock, and it's not trying to time the market and getting it wrong. No, it's something way quieter, and honestly, a lot more common.
That's right. The real danger, it's in the decisions that feel totally safe, the ones that seem logical, like you're doing everything right. But behind the scenes, they're just quietly, slowly draining your nest egg. These are the invisible mistakes, and believe me, they can cost you an absolute fortune over your lifetime. Okay, so let's get into the first category of these quiet killers, tax and RMD errors. RMDs, of course, being required minimum distributions. And this is an area where, trust me, a little bit of knowledge goes a long way and can save you a ton of money.
All right, first up, and this is a huge one. So many of us just assume it's like a default setting, that our tax rate is going to be lower in retirement. It just makes sense, right? Well, for a lot of people, that's just flat out wrong. Once you start factoring in your Social Security, maybe a pension, and especially those RMDs we just mentioned, your tax bracket can easily be just as high as when you were working, sometimes even higher.
And the cost of getting this one little assumption wrong, it's staggering. We're talking about making decisions that could lead to you paying an extra $50, $100, maybe even $200,000 in taxes you just didn't have to pay. That's not just a mistake, that's a total game changer for your retirement. Okay, let's talk more about those RMDs. Most people see age 73 and think, okay, that's the deadline, that's when I have to start taking money out. But thinking of it that way is a massive misstep. Here's the key. It's not just a withdrawal rule, it's a tax planning deadline. Think of it like a starting gun. Once those RMDs begin, a huge amount of control over your own taxable income just vanishes.
So how much control are we talking about? Well, think about it. Those years between the day you retire and the day your RMDs kick in, for many people, those are their lowest income years. And that little window of time is pure gold. If you strategically use that window for things like Roth conversions, you could potentially save, get this, $250,000 in taxes. It's an incredible opportunity. All right, now let's talk about a really sneaky trap. It's called the tax torpedo, and it's where things get weird. Basically, as your retirement income goes up, it can trigger a chain reaction where more and more of your Social Security benefits suddenly become taxable. And this creates this bizarre situation where earning just one single extra dollar of income can push your effective tax rate way, way higher than you'd ever expect.
And look at this chart. It shows you exactly what I'm talking about. See that bar on the left? That's your normal tax rate. Now look at the torpedo zone bar on the right. See how it just shoots up? You might think you're in, say, the 22% tax bracket, but when you hit this zone, the tax on your next dollar, your effective marginal rate, can suddenly leap to 40, even 50%. It's a massive hidden tax hike that you absolutely have to plan for.
Okay, let's move on to our next section, which is all about missteps with your income and, the actual accounts where you're holding your money. A lot of these decisions can feel pretty emotional, but man, do they have huge mathematical consequences.
So let's talk Social Security. Claiming it at age 62? It feels like freedom, doesn't it? You've earned it. It's the earliest you can possibly get your hands on it, but it's very often a really costly mistake. Because claiming early means you're locking in a permanently reduced benefit for the rest of your life. And the math behind waiting, it's just so much more powerful than most people give it credit for.
So just how powerful? Well, check this out. For a married couple, that one decision, claiming at 62 versus waiting until 70, can easily cost them between $100,000 and $200,000 in lifetime benefits. That is an enormous price to pay for getting a few extra years of much smaller checks.
And the impact here goes way beyond just the total dollar amount. Taking it at 62 locks in that permanently smaller benefit, period. But when you wait until 70, you're not just maximizing your own check for the rest of your life, you're also maximizing the survivor benefit for your spouse. And that provides crucial protection for them long after you're gone.
Okay, next up, your actual accounts. Think about this. If 100% of your retirement savings are in traditional tax-deferred accounts, like a 401k or an IRA,
That means 100% of your retirement income is going to be taxable. You've basically painted yourself into a tax corner. You have zero flexibility, zero control over your tax bill from year to year.
So what's the solution? It's something called tax diversification. It's about having a mix. Some money in traditional accounts, some in tax-free Roth accounts, and maybe some in a regular taxable account. This mix gives you incredible power, because in any given year, you get to choose where to pull your income from. You can manage your tax bracket, and you can sidestep all those nasty cliffs we've been talking about. It is all about having options.
All right, let's move into our third section, which is all about timing and healthcare. And these traps are tricky because they're all about when things happen, when the market decides to take a nosedive, when inflation spikes, or when one tiny change in your income triggers a massive healthcare bill.
So this next one is one of the most critical ideas to understand for retirement. It's called sequence of returns risk. And all it really means is that the order of your investment returns matters a lot. Getting hit with bad returns in those first few years of retirement, right when you're starting to take money out, can be absolutely devastating to your long-term plan.
Just look at this comparison. It's incredible. We have two retirees. They have the exact same portfolio. They get the exact same average return over their entire retirement. But retiree A gets unlucky. They hit a bear market right at the start, and by age 82, they're out of money. Meanwhile, retiree B gets good returns early on. At age 82, they still have $1.4 million. Same money, same average return, completely different fates, all because of timing.
And finally, let's touch on Medicare, because this is a big one. A lot of people don't realize that your Part B premiums are not a fixed cost. Nope, they are based on your income, specifically your income from 2 years ago. This is called IRMAA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount. And if you accidentally cross one of the income thresholds, your premiums can just skyrocket, completely out of the blue.
This table here shows you exactly how brutal this can be. Look at that income column. If a married couple has an income of $212,000, they pay the premium you see there. But if they make just one single dollar more and their income hits $212,001, bam, their premiums for the whole year jump by over 40%. That $1 literally costs them thousands. It is a perfect example of a financial cliff.
Okay, so after hearing about all these traps and torpedoes and cliffs, you're probably thinking, great. So what am I supposed to do about all this? Well, let's pivot away from the problems and get straight to the solution. Here is a clear 6-step action plan you can use to avoid these incredibly costly mistakes.
All right, here we go. Step 1, know your numbers. You have to project your future income and figure out what your real tax bracket will be in retirement. Step 2, build tax diversification, and do it now. Start contributing to Roth and taxable accounts so you have choices later on. Step 3, use that golden window of time before you turn 73. That's your time for strategic moves like Roth conversions when your income is low. 4, run the actual math on Social Security. Don't guess, see what really works best for you and your spouse. 5, have a plan for sequence risk. That means having a buffer of cash so you don't have to sell your investments when the market is down. And finally, number 6, think in decades, not years. Your goal is to optimize for your entire retirement, not just to have one good tax year.
So if we take all of this, all these different pieces of advice, and we boil it all down to one single core idea, one philosophy that can protect you from all of these mistakes, what is it? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple.
And honestly, this might be the most important takeaway of all. These mistakes we've been talking about, they aren't made by people who are careless or foolish. They're made by smart people, diligent savers who did all the right things, but they trusted common sense rules of thumb instead of running the actual math for their own unique situation.
So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Which common sense rule are you following right now without really questioning it? Maybe it's about when to take Social Security, or about your taxes, or how you should be invested. Whatever it is, maybe it's time to stop trusting that old rule of thumb and start running your own numbers.